Tell us about your life.
I'd like to tell you about my life and my family. Half of my family was Italian, the other half was Spanish. I was born here in the United States in Pennsylvania. My mom was born in Honduras, and my father's family was from Italy. He was a first-generation American, and I was second. I was born hearing, and at the age of 13 months I became ill with meningitis, and then as a result became deaf. At that time, my family lived in a very small town outside of Philadelphia, Norristown, Pennsylvania. Of course, my mom and dad being hearing, this was their first exposure to deafness. And they learned about the Pennsylvania School for the Deaf and their early intervention program, which they were encouraged to bring me to from their doctor at the hospital. And they brought me to the Pennsylvania School for the Deaf to start my educational career. At the age of 3 or 4 years old, the Pennsylvania School for the Deaf High School closed, and my parents were faced with a decision about what to do with me and whether they should move while I was young, before I established roots, or not. So they started looking across the United States for the best educational opportunities. Florida presented itself, and my family moved to St. Augustine, Florida. There in St. Augustine, I was mainstreamed and attended the residential school for the deaf simultaneously. And looking back, my parents were looking at the mainstream option because they wanted the best quality of education. At the same time, they did not want me to lose exposure to my deaf culture. So I would go back and forth to my home and be in the hearing world, and then at school I was in the deaf world, my real world, and I would constantly bridge the two worlds throughout my educational experience. Throughout elementary and middle school, I had two identities, a dual identity. I was hearing Oscar, well, my family called me Luke at the time. I was hearing Luke with my family and my friends at home. At the deaf school, I was deaf Luke, and so I constantly navigated the two worlds. I think that I really didn't develop my own identity until much later in life, and I wasn't sure where I felt most comfortable. But I did eventually start migrating to the deaf community and felt it was my culture, my friends, my community, and something that I experienced growing up. The school experience at the School for the Deaf was rich, playing sports and being involved with friends. You know, Italian families and Spanish families are very close-knit, tight-knit cultural groups. They will not allow individuals to live outside of the home quite often. So I went back and forth to the home every day. And at that time, I hated going home. I wanted to stay at the School for the Deaf so I could play with my friends. I was depressed every time I had to go home, and I always wanted to hurry back to the School for the Deaf. In terms of the academics, with the mainstream setting, looking at social studies, history, at the School for the Deaf, I was taking math and theatrics and drama. And why was this the case for me? It was the quality of education. And it's sad to say that today a lot of schools for the deaf struggle to meet all of the needs of all of their students. And when they identify gaps, oftentimes those gaps can be filled in the mainstream setting. Education was essential to my parents for my well-being. I always thought about playing with friends, but I appreciate looking back that my parents were dedicated to my education. If it were not for them, I would not be who I am today. I would definitely be a different person. So now, in my life, what I'm currently doing is working as a teacher at the Texas School for the Deaf, teaching middle school English. It's ironic that after I finished graduate school at Gallaudet University, I wanted to do anything but teach. But fate brought me back through its journey, full circle, to the School for the Deaf, where I finally used my college degree after 8 years.